The Player series finale tell. Now, like most of my series finales, or pretty much all of them at this point, I'm doing 60 frames per second, so if you've seen my other reviews, this one will obviously look really weird compared to those because those are all 30. But it sucks that I'm doing 60 frames because I always do that for a series finale, and it shouldn't be the series finale after 9 episodes. It was pretty much done early on. This is probably the earliest I've ever, had a show canceled that I've actually been reviewing, and it really sucks because I love this show. And I've mentioned this a billion times already, but I love the actor because he was in the show that was one of my favorites, and then Strike Back, and it was just in itself. Like, if I didn't like the show and I liked the actor, I would have been like, it sucks that he's on this crappy show. But I didn't think the show was crappy. I thought this has a really cool, premise. Like, it's a crazy, tons of basically limitless possibilities for what random action he could get involved in. He was falling out of a plane fighting one of his old buddies in the second episode. So that kind of says it all right there. And I love this episode. I thought it had a great premise. The overarching story was really good. Just initially, I thought it was pretty interesting. Him trying to figure out who took his wife. And then it got even crazier, unfortunately, just more recently, and then cancellation. But just recently, it got even crazier with almost like a new overarching storyline where we have our main thing that started from the first episode, which was Ginny's disappeared, but she's not actually dead. And then we have it where it's like now there are people coming after them, like it's someone attacking the game, and it's like who would have the ability to do that? Who would even have the balls to do that? So there was so much possibility. There were places they could have definitely gone with this, and unfortunately, and this was something I mentioned last week. I was wondering if they got the news early enough, or if it would have been far too late for them to actually write, even if it was a rushed ending, at least a rushed ending. And based on this episode, unfortunately, it definitely was too late for them. By the time they got the news, they were already doing the last episode, and it was like it's already written, and they're basically going into production on the final episode, and that really sucks because even if it was rushed, of course, being a fan of the show, I would have loved to have had a cohesive ending where they kind of just wrap all this crap up, even if it was super rushed. I would have loved for that to happen. And it was a good episode, regardless. It was definitely a great episode, which, in the info, of course, it's like in the, season one finale, and I'm like, they just won't say. I mean, that's all they can say. As far as the info, that's just like, the cable people or whatever putting the info for the episode. But it's just one of those things where like they don't say stuff is canceled. It seems like nothing this season has just been like it's canceled. Everything's been like, oh, they cut down to like 9 episodes. You only do that if you don't want to see that show continue because you're gonna cancel it. So it sucks to see the show go. I feel like I'm gonna have to sign another petition. I just had to do one for another show that recently got canceled. Defiance on Sci-Fi, so I had to sign an online petition. Hopefully that matters and that gets put somewhere else online. But hopefully that happens with the Player too, even if it was like a little 2-hour thing and they rushed and wrapped it all up or something. I don't know, just 3 episodes more to have them like wrap up this storyline that they got would be great to see. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things that wouldn't happen, and that just really sucks. But I did enjoy this episode. It was a great final episode, even if it kind of just, was unfortunately unfinished as far as, the overarching storylines. But it definitely took some really crazy steps. Like, man, this was a really good episode. Like, in the info it says, like, oh, it's the season 1 finale. But this could have been, like, a season finale type of episode because by the end, and this, if they'd gotten, like, the extra episodes, this would have been, like, just over, I guess, halfway through the season because it probably only would have been boosted up to, like, 13, possibly 20 if they really wanted to, like, extend it. But it was like, man, this was a really good episode because things got completely insane. Like, Cassandra gets kidnapped. Cal kind of has this, crisis of conscience after everything that happens. Like, they basically strip her down to her underwear. That's exactly what they do, not even basically. They strip her down to her underwear. May have been technically legal, which Cal brings up a couple of different times, but morally wasn't exactly the coolest thing ever. And then we have Cassandra finding out that Johnson may or may not have been the one to actually kill her family, so that means something with either her mother or father. They were involved in something, maybe together, who knows, but their prime suspect was Johnson at the time, and that just led to something insane. And then we have that, would have once again affected what could have possibly happened with Johnson and whoever this mystery group really was. And that was amazing to me. I was like, I didn't expect them to do anything like that where, Cassandra, who was super cool during the interrogation scene, and of course she questions Cal and's like, maybe you should figure out who you're dealing with because I know who I work for and this and that. And I guess I did that backwards because that was the FBI woman who said that to Cassandra about I know who I work for. But it was like, do you know this? Have you talked to this person or that person? And then she just beats up the two guards. And I love when she shot at the window because she knew it was bulletproof. And she was like, those were warning shots. And if you, try anything, these men won't be getting off the floor. I was like, that was super cool. And then we got like the crazy backstory we've never heard before. And it hits her. And like the woman said, it's cage rattling. And it obviously worked. And it was really cool. And it's like, was it really him? Like, I'm assuming it would have to be him because they mentioned that, of course, he was a former player. They don't really get into details, though, of course, about the whole timeline thing. But it seems like it makes perfect sense. They've gone through, they named like 5 or 6 different people in this episode alone. So there were quite a few people before Alex came along. And Johnson was in there somewhere, obviously. And I don't know how old Wesley Snipes is. I'm pretty sure he's like almost in his 60s, just about. So that's about a good 30 years on Philip Winchester. I believe he's like in his 30s, I would assume. So that is like a solid 30 years. So the time easily works out. He could have been the one that had done that and killed her family for whatever reason. And now that's in her head. And of course, she, based on the description, it's like, oh, African American guy, very cunning and witty and kind of deadly and stuff like that. And it's like, well, there's only 2 black guys in the show and one's a cop, so I'm pretty sure she's talking about Johnson. So that them introducing that idea was just pretty crazy. I was like, I did not see that one coming. And then and this was in the preview and I was really looking forward to this, but Alex actually fighting against Johnson, which was a pretty crazy scene. That made Johnson like we knew Johnson was deadly to begin with, but them actually fighting made Johnson just kind of, every little kick and punch he did, it was just like, he's getting a little bit higher on my list as being like a really cool villain character. But he wasn't exactly a villain because he mentions like, I didn't do that. It's whoever these people are. But we know he's not exactly a great person. He's almost like in the anti-hero category. But man, it was crazy watching, like, I'm rooting, of course, for Alex, because Johnson has all these crazy secrets, and it's like, I just don't trust him. So I'm, of course, rooting for Alex, and it's like, he's not going to win this fight, though. Like, even when it first started, it was like some Matrix stuff, and Johnson's just, like, blocking with one hand, and he's holding the phone, he's just like, what the heck are you doing? And then he does, like, a judo throw. When Alex like runs like the final move that he does, and he like runs at him, he just does like a kick and like basically kicks him in midair, and I'm like, geez, he was messing him up, and it was still awesome. But I was like, he would not be able to beat him if they kept fighting. It just wasn't gonna work. And I was like, that's kind of cool because if they ever did get to the point where Johnson full on became a villain, it would be really hard for Alex to defeat him, and it would be one of those things where he'd have to get so much better than this guy who clearly, excuse me, I was about to sneeze, but it was like clearly unbelievably amazing. And we saw him fight, some other people before, but seeing him go up against Alex was just like crap. It's just like upper echelon, like Alex can't even touch him. So I love that scene. I even like the way it ended with Cassandra coming in with a gun, and they didn't exactly show who she was pointing at, but I'm pretty sure she was kind of pointing at Johnson a little bit. And, once everything's said and done, Alex is like, I don't care at this point, like, if you didn't go, after him. And then, there's still all the lies and the secrets and stuff. So it's like, I don't care if you weren't actually the one that did this. Now my friend's, he's in the hospital right now, and I had to save his life. So he quits, and it's like, he quit. We have Cal in the hospital. They aren't friends anymore. The whole reveal about Cassandra. A full-on attack now to, like, mentally manipulate, the the player within the game from this mystery organization. Something else that was actually kind of cool was Johnson meeting the random guy who's like basically like the overseer of everything. That was kind of cool, and he was able to basically cancel the entire game. I thought that was pretty sweet. So we got to meet one of the kind of upper echelons of the whole system, and it's like, this is, I guess, the top person, because he went to him like, I need to cancel the game from forfeit. And this guy was like, all right, like he barely did it, but he was like, all right, I'll take care of this, and that's pretty much it. Like this one time, it's weird, like no one ever seems to kind of respect Johnson. Like anyone above him, or I mean, obviously with the FBI agent, she's trying to take him down because they don't know what's happening. But this guy didn't seem to like him. It's like everyone who's above the person below them doesn't 100% like the person below them, because Johnson mentioned like Samuel Letts was like, he didn't really trust you, and but I do, and stuff like this. Like there's always someone above you that just doesn't like you 100% or doesn't want you to be trusted by somebody else. And it was like, it's funny how that works. Like it wasn't Johnson himself in the case of Cassandra, but it's like there's always someone who's a little bit above you. And it's like, it just seemed like how they did it. Like I just don't like that person 100%. So that was kind of cool again to see basically the top member. He may have been like one of the heads of the, I don't know if I could even call it a company, because we really don't know. It's just a thing. It's just the game. So he may have been like the head, or he could have just been one of them. But we got to see one, so that was actually a pretty cool little moment. Alex going through the airport was pretty cool, and how he got caught by the guy who's like, okay, he's following me. He's just like tapping away on this iPad, and I didn't think he was going to escape the way that he did. I thought it was just going to be like, okay, he's doing this, something's going to happen, and it'll cause some chaos. I didn't think he was just like, all right, and boom, you're, FBI most wanted, or like Marshal, U.S. Deputy Marshals want this guy. And that was pretty crazy. I thought that was kind of cool how he escaped that way. I thought it was kind of messed up how Alex put his gun in the one guy's bag. I thought that was kind of funny, but it was really messed up, because I'm like, man, this guy is completely screwed. Like, he's arrested and this and that. They could probably easily do some stuff with fingerprints and like, see, it's not, my fingerprints were never even on it. But that was kind of messed up. I was like, dang, he's saving people all the time, like the woman who had the bomb and stuff. But this guy's like, he'll just get arrested, no big deal. For, having a gun, you can go to jail for quite some time for having a gun at an airport. And it was just like, oh, he's got a gun, I don't know. And he just slips through. I'm like, oh, that was kind of messed up. He didn't. And it kind of blew my mind a little, like, why didn't he just leave the gun? He's going to an airport. It's not like he would have shot. I mean, I guess he would have, because it's an action show. In real life, if you have gun training, you probably wouldn't shoot in a giant crowd. Some people do, probably shouldn't. But it's like, man, why didn't he just leave the gun? He has a car. He's always driving. It's not like he takes the bus. So it's like, why didn't he just leave his gun in the car? But he's like, nope, this guy's screwed. Plus, he lost his gun doing that. So I thought that was kind of funny. And it's like, he lost his gun and he got that guy kind of screwed over. And I don't know if he got some strings pulled and got that guy put out too. I kind of was looking down during the scene where Alex got out. I highly doubt the guy was in the background like, oh, he's free too. But I didn't look up during that scene. So they may have kind of shown him in the background walking away as well. But I kind of doubt it. I kind of want to go back and check that now. But that I just thought was funny. It's like, oh, he kind of screwed that guy over and just kept on going. But it was a cool action episode for sure. Cal being in yet another shootout, but this one was definitely more dangerous because he was actually hit. And, of course, he didn't get killed off because he's one of the main characters, which kind of doesn't matter at this point. But, of course, he's not dead, and it does lead to, like, the big moment where he and Alex are basically no longer friends. And that was yet another huge thing about this episode. Then we have the ending where Alex finds out that this little storage unit is like twice as big as he thought it was. It's like a whole fake wall, and there's, even as soon as he first opened the door and I saw like to his left, there was like the tourniquet stuff. I was like, okay, something crazy is in this room. And then they show basically just all assault rifles and stuff like that. And then there was like one thing was like just a flat out rocket launcher was sitting in the case as well. So I don't know what the case was with that, because I mean, obviously, that's beyond what I was expecting. She's obviously involved in this crazy stuff. We get the info from the guy that Alex was searching for the whole time that she did want a fake ID and all this extra stuff, but she was actually kidnapped by other people. So she was taken away. He had no information. I want to go into all these speculations, but it's kind of pointless because of the cancellation. I don't really want to even think about all the possibilities anymore, but I still wonder, because when we actually heard from her and we got to see her, she seemed like she was totally fine. She had a cell phone and everything. It was like, oh, here's that specialty cell phone you left with the secret number and everything. And it's like, I knew you'd find me, but that would have had to have been there like months ago. And they still just let her keep the phone and everything. It's like, I don't really understand. And that may have been before everything happened, before we got the info on her, like, going to, like, the fake airport, the fake image and everything. So maybe that's what that was, and that's when it was like, oh, she is currently fine. It's like, I knew you'd find me, but don't call again. And so maybe that's why that seems so weird, because she was totally fine. Like, oh, she's just reading a book and relaxing and everything. So I guess that was before she was actually taken, and so then, now she's actually been taken by some other people, and so it's like she was involved with something crazy and had to fake her own death and get the heck out of there. And then she was gonna escape, and then she actually got kidnapped by some other people, and all this craziness. But it sucks to see the show go. I certainly loved it. The couple episodes that we got. I hope that there is some way in the world that this show gets picked up and maybe put on like another NBC affiliated channel, and they just put it on there and let it. I don't know. I don't know if they pick it back up and do it that way or what. But I would love to see this show continue. I think it deserves it because it's probably the best action show I've seen on TV in years. Definitely. Like it's not, of course, Strike Back. That's like my epitome of action when it comes to TV shows at this point. But on like normal networks, this is like the most action based show I've seen in a very long time. I think the only other show would probably be like, I don't know, 24 doesn't even really count. Like that was like, a bunch of crazy stuff. There was a lot of action in that, but even that, there's nothing really that's like hand to hand combat unless it's just a flat out show based on that, which there are none. This was definitely the show. This was the one where it was just like a bunch of crazy, fighting moves and shootouts and all sorts of craziness. It's stuff that you would normally see on a cable TV show. And we finally had it something where it's like, you'd have to typically pay to see this on like a premium cable network or just whatever cable package. And yet we had it on just NBC. You could just turn it, well, for me it's Channel 4. But, you can just turn whatever NBC is for you guys. And you have like this amazing action show with a pretty cool story as far as I'm concerned. But sadly, you got like some of the lowest ratings. Like every new show, it's one of the lowest rated ones. I know Minority Report has also been canceled or reduced, number of episodes. But it sucks to see the show go. I did enjoy this episode. Like I said, I just wish they had the time to finish it up, or maybe they'll do something super special. Sometimes that happens. I highly doubt it will, because this isn't like a show that got canceled after like 4 or 5 seasons. So it's like, oh, we'll let you guys wrap it up. It was the first season, they cut it down to 9 episodes. So I don't think we're gonna get any sort of amazing little, here's a 2-hour special episode or whatever where they finish everything out. But I would love to see that happen. I'd love to see the show just continue, because even more than getting a conclusion, I would love to see this show just go for a couple of seasons. I think this show could easily go to like 3, maybe 4 seasons, like just with some of the stuff that they've introduced, and then just spread things out a little bit. It would be easily could go into like 4 or 5 seasons. But unfortunately the ratings were too low. Maybe it was just the show itself, maybe it needed to be on during a different night. I don't know. I mean, it didn't exactly have the craziest competition. I think Sleepy Hollow is like the only show I watched. Sleepy Hollow, and then Heroes was on before The Player, I believe. Or, yeah, something like that. I don't know the order, but I guess it had too much competition, and that's why it got canceled. Very unfortunate, but love the show. Want to know what you guys thought about this episode, of course. Um, the big thing, since it is the finale, I want to ask about this or that from the episode in general. You guys can just let me know, because it was like I said, it was a great episode for it to end on, but obviously it was meant to continue. But it was certainly a great just episode in general. If this wasn't an ending, it would have been like, it probably was the best episode. Oddly enough, I think this is probably my favorite one because it was such a change. It was like the game was kind of broken apart because the player quit. Alex and Cal's relationship had completely changed. Johnson and Cassandra's relationship changed again because there was already the stuff with her not trusting him. And this just added to that, and all this stuff was just a great episode in general. But out of these 9 episodes, I do want to know your favorite. If the show was somehow picked up or resolved, would you be interested in seeing an ending to the show? If you could, choose a random channel to see it on, what would you pick? And just, compared to some of the other new shows, I also want to know what you guys thought about this one. Because there have been a ton of new shows that actually came on. I know Blind Spot, of course. Blind Spot's doing fine, so at least I got something new that's going to keep going. There's like Limitless based off of the movie. There was Quantico, which is also doing pretty good. I think Limitless is doing fine. I mentioned Minority Report not doing the greatest. There are a bunch of other comedy shows too, and I never look at sitcoms anymore. Like, I'll kind of randomly see them. Never bother like checking into any new sitcoms, but I want to know what you guys thought about this one. Sad to see it goes. Like, there's not much else to say about that. It just sucks, and I can only hold out some small bit of hope, even though it's very unlikely. Because, like I said, it's not like this was a show that's been a staple for years, so they'll give it its respect and let it finish. It's just like, new show, didn't make it, and then done, and that's how TV shows go, unfortunately. I wish I ran a network, because I'd be like, I like this, keep it going, and at least let people resolve it. I would at least do that. I wish every show got that opportunity to just be like, hey, you're canceled, here's like at least 4 or 5 more episodes, however many you need. Maybe not however many, that's a bit stretch. But a couple more episodes. Wrap it up as best you can, and we'll make it work. I wish I could have that option, but like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this. Unfortunately, very soon, very early finale. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.